Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I wanted to try and model the new World Cup ball. I thought the design was very interesting and I wanted to challenge myself. And after looking at the ball for a very long time, I realized that there is a repeatable pattern. The first thing I want to do is create a camera. Whenever I try and make a very complicated shape like this, I always like to do projections. So I found a couple of images of the ball, and now I'm looking through the camera. I'm going to click this button, which will create an image plane. I found two images. There are actually 6 poles on the ball. So there's one right here. This is the top, if that's the top. And then we have one on the left, right, on the back, and one below. This is not the bottom. This is the side, actually. So let's just use this one. And if I look through it, one thing that I want to change about the camera is when they take a photo like this, they usually use a very long lens. Let's do a focal length of 100. And then if I make a sphere, and from here I can try and see if I can figure out the pattern. So doing this kind of thing earlier, I figured out that the design is actually a sphere like this that I'm going to make. I'll make it 10 units. And then for the axis, I'm going to make 6. And then for the height, I'm going to make something small. Let's do 16 for now. I'm going to make 2 more spheres. I'm not duplicating because I want to be able to control the creation, right? Like here. So if I type in 6 here and then 16 there, I should have, and 10 scale, I should have 3 identical spheres that are also have the same subdivisions and for the height and axis. So now this sphere, I'm going to rotate this way 9 degrees like here, and then the other one I'm going to rotate in this direction because the poles are here, here, and then on top like that. Now I can't really see this triangle pattern that we see in here, this little triangle right here, because we need to make sure that the poles are opposite. So you can see that this pole we have an acute triangle here, and then we have an obtuse one on top and bottom. In the next pole, it's the opposite, and that creates this shape. So that means that if this one is rotated like this, then this needs to be rotated like that. See, and now we created that shape. And then the same here. This one's already fine. So now you can see if we turn the wireframe on, here's the pattern. Now we need to turn this into something useful, because like I can't, this is not usable geo that we can actually start using, but because also I made the subdivisions here like this, I can actually adjust the subdivision height, and you can see they'll kind of come together like this. So it's kind of easier to see the pattern. We can also adjust the axis subdivision, but we have to go by 6s. So like if I go to 12, I still see the pattern. And I think this is going to work because now I can see pattern better, and then we can see the this section here. So now let's figure out how we can preserve this pattern. And one thing that I can do is turn them into curves. And there's different ways we can do that, but I'm going to do it by just snapping on the EP curve tool. And also I don't need that many subdivisions, and I want to try and reduce the subdivision height until I get like a close to an intersection here. It's like 43, probably the best one to use here. Let's start with the EP curve tool, and I'm going to make one line going across this way. So I'm going to start here. I'm holding V, then left clicking, and then while holding V, I'm just going to go through and start clicking. I'm going to go past that edge there, right? So this is my first line. Now the next line, I rotate this, I'm going to duplicate it and then rotate it and rotate it this way. So I can basically use the same curve to create the other lines. So instead of making new ones, I can just use the same one. So now I need to make this line, and all I need to do is just kind of rotate until I kind of get to where it needs to be, and then that. Now if I hide the geo, that's the pattern. Right? So now we can actually use this pattern to, I want to freeze it first, to create the rest of the ball. So if I duplicate this and then scale it in Z, like this, -1. Now I have that section made. I'm going to select it, then scale it -1 in X, then select the whole thing, duplicate, and then scale it -1 in Y. I need to try and make this as geometry. We can actually use QuadDraw to do it. The first thing we need to do is make a sphere that we're going to use as our base, right? Something that we're going to draw on. I'm going to make it very like barely penetrating the curve. I'm going to make it also very dense, like maybe 128. Go higher in the axis. Let's do 80. Okay. Now I just want to scale it until I see the curves reappear. There. What I need to do is make a section of this using QuadDraw. And I'm going to select the sphere, make it live. I'm going to turn off wireframe. This. Let's turn on anti-aliasing. So the sphere, these curves are not very visible. So I'm going to take the sphere and just scale it down just a little bit until they're more visible, like that. And then with QuadDraw, I can make the pattern. The only way to make a triangle is to force it. And one way we can force it is by making quads on the outside. And filling the inside. Make and delete the outside. Make sure you're selecting the face. I'm holding Ctrl-Shift to delete. So the way you make geometry is with QuadDraw, you left click. You have to make sure that the object you want to draw on, you have to click this magnet. That'll make it live. And from there you can just left click, and that creates points. And if you hold shift, it will then connect those points. So you need quads. You need 4 points to make a shape like this. Once you have the base lined up, you can hold Control and add geometry this way. So before I do that, I want to make sure that I'm as close to the two sections as I can. We need to turn this into quads somehow. So if I make a line down here, I'm going to temporarily make shapes there. I'm going to add lines. I'm going to delete this space in the middle, and then hold Control and add divisions there. Put a point down the middle, and then we can make this into this triangle into quads. So 3 quads make a triangle. Okay, so I just press W to leave QuadDraw, then turn off live. We can hide our sphere that we used for reference, and now I can use this to make the rest of the shapes. So first I'm going to take this object and separate these two edges. So I'm just going to hold shift, right click, and click detach component. So now they're separate, and then I can use this button, which is extract, and that will separate the two sides. So if I then go to object mode, clear history, these are separate now. What I can do here is do the same thing that I did with the curve. So I'm going to duplicate it, but rotate it so I can place it on each side of this center triangle. It takes a couple rotations, but we can get it into place. If I combine them, I can select these vertices here, hold Control, left click, and drag. until all of them merge. Now press 3 and we can see it's connected. I need to now duplicate this. The easiest way to do this would be to create like this. Take also this way. Okay, so now I can combine all of these, and then for these holes here, I'm gonna press any to merge all of my points here. So I'm gonna select all of them, click merge, and then just drag the selection here. If I press 3, I can see where it's not merged. So these aren't merged. There. Once they kind of pop like that, it means we're good. Alright, and then we need to fill these triangles here, and all we need is one of these. So if I duplicate, select these, right click, invert selection, delete, and then this one I can just mirror with -1 here. Then combine, merge. See, right now these lines are pinching. That means it's not merged. Now it's merged. Now to make sure it's still spherical, if I unhide our really dense sphere, which is right here, I can select this object and then this our new ball, and then control select the sphere. Then go to spacebar, deform, shrink wrap, and what I can do here is do vertex normals, and then make sure so these are the default settings. I wanted to do vertex normals, bidirectional, and hit apply. So if I clear history now, it's locked. So at this point, here's the thing that's going to happen. If I click smooth, right, it's going to take all of our lines and soften them, and then it's not really, so like this line that was supposed to be straight is now curved like an S. We need to separate all of the geometry. So now that it's combined, we merged all of the vertices, everything's connected. But at the same time, if I then go through and separate all of these lines, I can then keep the sharpness when I do my subdivision. Shift, right click, detach component. Now if we press 3, you can see we have all the patches separated. Now we can bevel the patches, but we can't bevel them unless we extrude first. So if I extrude this with thickness, now when I extrude it, it leaves the inside faces, which we don't want. So I'm going to give it a little bit of extrusion, not too much, not too little, and then make sure I'm in face mode. I'm going to press shift greater than or shift period to grow my selection, and then hold shift, drag a selection over the whole thing, and delete. What this will leave me is this, and I only need to bevel a small section. So if I do the same thing we did before, I'm going to select this much, deselect the rest, delete it. So the reason I did it this way is because, and the reason I rebuilt the whole thing is I wanted to make sure all of the vertices are matching together, and building the whole thing out first will help with that. But now, if I select these outside loops, this, and then select the corners that I want to preserve, I can now go shift, right click, bevel, and give it like that. Now if I press 3, you can see what it looks like. So when I did bevel actually merged the vertices. So I want to make sure the merge vertices right here is on. I'm going to set that to off. Okay. I caught that. Now subdivide again. Now everything's good. That, delete. All right. Now the thing is, it's not matching our sphere anymore. See? So I'm going to duplicate that sphere. I'm going to keep the old one just in case. I'm going to scale this out to the farthest most vertex, which is like there. Then I'm going to select all the vertices here, right click, select, and if I shrink my selection, I can deselect the sides here, so I only have the top selected. Then I'll shift select the sphere. Now I can go into the form, shrink wrap, and do the same thing. Now it's gonna take those outside vertices and snap them to the sphere. Now we have rounded shape here. And if we subdivide again, we can do that process again. Okay, good. If you want to round off the edges here, we can do that as well. So like, if I want to have more penetration on the sides here, I can select these edges here and then go to edit mesh transform, where I have a button here. Grab the blue arrow and then push that out. I'd like to do UVs at this point. So we'll just do a automatic map and then select all the edges and then stitch together, then select them again and then unfold. That's it. And to make it easier to lay out, I'm going to hold D and V, snap my pivot here, hold X, snap this to the grid like that, and just line it up. Okay, now I can duplicate, mirror this to the other side. If I combine, clear history, soften edge. This is the pattern. So I want to test out the texture from the image that we have, and the thing is, I want to be able to place it on this actual geometry. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ball and just duplicate it, because I always want to have a version saved. I'm going to take one of these sections and delete everything else. And I also don't want any of this stuff on the outside. We just want this. Now, this extra geometry is going to be a problem, so we're going to delete it so that it's a clean shape with less things. And now we need to basically rotate it so that it's flat. I'm going to try and unbend it. And I know that because it's lined up the way it is now, I can try and use a bend deformer to reverse the bend. So if I go to the form, nonlinear bend, take this bend and rotate it this way, and then place it to the highest most point, holding V like that. I want to scale it so it's bigger, and then there's a curvature. So the curvature right now is going in the wrong direction, so we just need to rotate the bend deformer 90 degrees this way. Just unwrap like that. Clear history. Just look at it from the top, and this is what we get. Now I'm going to take this and just scale it in Y to 0, and then freeze transformations. Control Shift F. Like that. We can actually remove most of this geometry and then add it back in. I'll show you why we can do that. Delete. I'm going to delete all of the vertices. We have the basic shape of this. And I want to to line this up to the texture. Now what's going to happen is that it's curved, so it's not going to work that well, but there is a method to this. Okay, now that we have this lined up, I go in here, and then I add an edge loop. So let's add single loops this way. Yeah. You can see we have more points here. Now I can take this one and line up here, same here, and then add one here. And you want to do this one edge at a time. This is unwarped, right? So if this is the texture, you can see our UVs are warped, but the image is not warped. But I want to bake this. So I want to bake this onto a different section, and so let's do that, because what I want to do is I want to make sure that this is now baked onto a clean version of UVs. So if I duplicate this image or this geometry, and we'll just delete all the internal lines, we want to bake it to these UVs. I'm going to make them bigger so they fill a whole tile. You can actually just do it unfold quickly just to make sure they're, and then I want to make sure these are snap to grid, that so that they're even. Then I can take this piece and call it target, and this is my source, and then place this back and just assign a just a Lambert. All right, now the way we can bake this is if we go into lighting, shading, and then click under baking, click transfer maps, we get this window. I'm going to just remove everything, clear all, open everything up. We're going to do a 2K map. We're going to keep this on low. We want to do a new shader. Actually, let's do a sign shader. We already have a new Lambert assigned. And for the reason I named this source and target is because it's easier. So the source has the texture we want. So I'm going to click on source, click add selected, and we can actually hide it. Then the target, I can click add selected to the target like that. And now that's it. We can click on diffuse because that's what I want. We need to give it a name. So I'm going to click the folder icon. It's going to go into source images. We'll call it like that. Version 001.png. We'll just make a PNG, nice and simple. Make sure this is PNG, and then click bake. The baking's done. We can look at the texture in here, and this is what it looks like. So now it's completely undistorted, nice and straight. Now if we open up our, see how some of these are red. If I double click any of the red ones, I can click flip in here. I'm going to assign new material. I'm going to make this into a blend temporarily, and then for file we'll choose that texture that we did. 6. It's going to look like this. So what we need to do here is try and scale this to match that, and I can do it separately because so these UVs are all the ones that were flipped. I'm going to do those separately because I want to be a little more precise here. under Tools, Lattice, and then here we can adjust the rows and columns. I think this is good. I'm going to turn off this so I can just see the wireframe underneath. Now if I select this lattice point here, and then this one, and this one, you can see what we can do is we can adjust until we get to that edge. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I want to adjust this in Photoshop quickly. So let me go into Photoshop quick and adjust it. Alright, so I have it open here in Photoshop, and I want to get rid of this the logo. So I'm going to use the, let's see, we need the spot healing brush. Where is it? Somewhere. Spot healing brush. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to balance the white, because right now it's very gray, there's a lot of reflection in it. So we'll go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and right here take this slider and move it over until we see white. So I'll just do it this way. Okay. And then I'm going to make a new layer, and what I need to do is put white all around. But I also want to take this edge and kind of flare it out. So I want to go past where this color is, just to fill in more of it. So first let's go and make a selection like this. Select, inverse, and Alt delete. I want to fill this area with this color. So I'm going to go back on this layer and use the clone stamp tool, and I'm going to hold Control, click here, then move over here, and then I can paint. Okay, now we can flatten and just save over that image. Save like that. Back in Photoshop, we just need to reload. Go in here and then click reload. And that's it. And that's our 2022 World Cup football. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're not. And I'll see you guys next time.